Hello, my name is Tolu, and I am the Managing Director of a CPA firm here in Houston, Texas, and welcome to episode 5 of Tax Talks. Today, we're going to be discussing the new Biden COVID stimulus. Particularly, we're going to be discussing the individual provisions that include the child tax credit as well as the economic impact payment. Those are the $3,600 payment and the $1,400 payment, respectively. So now, before we get started, I want to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, and share this information to anyone you think might need it, because we are going to talk about how you're going to cure a lot of the problems that are going to come up. Let's get started. So, as many of you know, Biden just passed this giant stimulus bill on March 11th, right? And now we need to know where all this money is going to go. And it is such a huge bill that we won't be able to cover everything in one sitting, right? So we're just going to be taking everything in little bites. Now, the first part of it is, and I'm going to show you my screen soon. So the first part, so really the first part that applies, the lowest bottom denominator really is the individual portion, which is going to be the $1,400 payment, the $3,600 payment. But I also want to go over in some of the other provisions. So just quickly, so that you kind of understand what's going to be coming next in my videos, because I'm going to be covering this pretty comprehensively. So we have the individual provisions, which include the child tax credit, unemployment, and then we have the economic impact payment. And the economic impact payment is actually already going out, and there's going to be some issues with that, whether you've already filed your tax return, whether you've already filed your whether you haven't filed your tax return, whether you didn't file your 2018, whether you didn't file 2019, etc. Right? So we're going to talk about how you're going to fix a lot of that stuff. And then the unemployment, it's going to expire in September 2021. However, you're using your state government for that, so it's not really going to be part of what we're going to be discussing, because all the jurisdictions are basically different. We have 50 states plus all the others, right? The territories, right? So we're not going to be really covering that in depth, just so you know that it's going to expire in September, and your state government is going to be covering that for you. Right. So the other part of the provisions are going to be for businesses, for small businesses, for payroll stuff for businesses, and then real estate. And I'm not really sure if there are actually anything specifically to real estate. However, real estate are businesses, right? So you should be qualifying under the business rule for this one. So, and the PPP is still going on. So I just want to remind everyone, if you're still having trouble with payroll, if you still need money, go ahead and go and apply for the PPP. And I do know some people, even though the banks are kind of cheating small businesses with their rules about only going with only going with clients that have a relationship with them. There are other entities out there who actually provide PPP loans for people, such as PayPal, Intuit, the people that make QuickBooks, and Cabbage, as well as Bluevine. So please go ahead, research PPP providers or PPP lenders, and try to find someone who can help you, because that is still going on. So without further ado, let's get into the provisions. The economic impact payment. Who qualifies? This is the $1,400 payment, right? Who qualifies? U.S. citizens and residents with income from $75,000 to $160,000, depending on the filing status on your last tax return. Let me repeat that. So they're going to use your last tax return, whether it is 2019 or 2020, to determine what your income is going to be, and that is based on your AGI. So these numbers here are your AGI. I went too far. So these numbers here are your AGIs, right? It's the $75,000 to $160,000, and those numbers depend on your filing status. So it's going to be a range based on your filing status, right? So now you're going to get full payment of the stimulus if your income is below these amounts under where it says full payment, right? So if you're married filing jointly or qualified widower, or widower, and your income is $150,000 or below. So it could be from 0 to $150,000, right? That means you will get full $1,400 per person on your tax return, and that includes you and the spouse. That includes you, the spouse, and the children. If you are a head of household, you would get 112,000. Excuse me. If you are a head of household and your income is anywhere from 0 to $112,000, $112,500, you will get full payment of the $1,400 per person on your tax return, right? And that includes you and your children. And if you're single and married filing separately, then you will get, as long as your income, your AGI is anywhere from 0 to $75,000, you will get the full payment. And when I say married filing separately, that means each spouse qualifies for their own separate for 75,000. So your spouse to qualify based on the 75,000, you will qualify based on the $75,000, right? And you will get, so as soon as your income is above those full payment amounts, you will get only half the payment, right? So if your income is $75,000, 100 as a single person or married filing separately person, then you get only half the payment. That would be $700 per person on your tax return. So if you are head of household, right, and your income is $112,600, you're already only at half the payment, right? Isn't that something really annoying? Because most of the phase outs, they're doing it incrementally, right? So if you have $1,000 of more income, if you have $1,000 more of income, then you will lose only so much. You will lose only a small percentage, and then if you have another 1,000 extra in income, that means you will have a total of $2,000 extra in income above the lower limit, right? Then you will lose only another small portion of that, and so on and so forth. But here they're saying as soon as you're over the lower limit, which is the 75,000, the 150,000, the 112,500, then you're already cut off at half. You've already lost 50%. Now, if your if your income is basically from $75,000 to $80,000, you're still getting 50% of this stuff. If your income as a married filing jointly person, you have $160,000, you're still only getting half of it, right? So anywhere from $150,000, 100 or $150,000 and $1 to $160,000, you're only getting half of it, right? So of course, the closer to $160,000 it is, right, the better for you, right? the closer it is to $150,000, the not so great for you it is, right? Because you're losing so much, a huge percentage of it, even while you're very close to the lower limit. But here's the kicker: you get 0% if your limit, if your income, your AGI is higher than these numbers where it says half the payment, right? So you're getting zero, absolutely nothing if your AGI is higher than $160,000 as a married filing jointly or qualifying widower. If you're a head of household, right, you're getting zero for every person on your tax return. If your AGI is already higher than $120,000, that means you don't get any, your children don't get any. And the same applies if you're single and married filing separately. You get zero if your income is higher than $80,000. Now, so I'm going to give you a tip regarding the filing of your tax return, the timing of the filing of your tax return. So because you're going to be basing this on your 2020 or 2019 tax return, right? You have an option, right? If your income is going to be higher than these, If your income is going to be is going to be higher than the lower limit of the where it says the full payment, you need to if your 2020 income is going to be higher than that, you need to wait until you get your payment to file your 2020 tax return. Okay, you need to wait to file your 2020 tax return, but only if you have not filed it and only if it is going to be lower than that full payment. Even if it's only going to be, excuse me, if it's going to be if it's going to be higher than the AGI on the AGI limit on the full payment. If it's going to be higher than the full payment, even the half payment on the higher limits, the 160, the 120, the 80,000, right? Wait to file it, because even though if it's going to be in between them, you might only be able to get half, but at least you might get something. If your 2020 is higher than your 2019, right, and it's going to disqualify, it's going to make you either get less instead of getting full, or it's going to make you get nothing instead of getting half or even full. Wait to file. But if it's the opposite, if your 2020 income is lower and it's going to make you get the full payment instead of a half payment, versus or even get no payment instead of the half payment or the full payment, then go ahead and file it as soon as possible. Why? Because they're already sending out these payments, right? So you want to make sure that your the lower income is what is what they're using to send to you. Okay. So how to get it? You simply need to have been a U.S. citizen or resident, right, of age. So if you're younger, then you don't really qualify, right? You would have to be claimed by someone, or if you have no guardian, then you can file. But you do not have to have filed a 2020 or 2019 tax return. Okay, that is just one of the options to have to file. So that's one of the options that helps you get the money, and it's one of the most prevalent option to getting it, right? The others, yes, you'll be able to get it to you, but not as quickly, because they're focusing on the people who have tax returns on file, because the tax return information, they know what your limit is, they know how many people are going to be on your tax returns, they know what your income is, and they know your bank. Most of the time, they're going to know your bank account, and that's why they're focusing on those guys first, right? But then if you don't have it, if you don't typically file a tax return, and it's going to cost you extra money to file a tax return, etc., right? You need to also have registered for the first two stimuli using the special non-filers portal from last year. I don't know if you remember, because they were telling everyone, if in order for you to get your payment very quickly, you need to go and register for, you need to go and submit your direct deposit information to the IRS, and that's what that non-filer portal from last year that they're talking about. If you register there, whether you file a 2020 or a 2019 tax return, really does not matter. You're going to get the payment anyway. And if you didn't have to file the portal, excuse me, if you didn't have to file from the portal last year because you are getting a federal benefit, that would also qualify. And these are the benefits that would help them actually really get the money to you. Social Security, supplemental security income, railroad retirement. And if your direct deposit or address has changed in any of these, you need to update them as quickly as possible. So they're going to be using either your direct deposit information, which is going to be the first ones that are going to be going out, and then they're going to be using your mailing address. So you just want to make sure that your information is up to date, right? So once again, the Social Security, supplemental security income, railroad retirement, if you're getting or veterans benefits. So if you're getting any of those parts, veterans is not here, but it's definitely one of those that will help you get your payment. And this will apply for everyone. So if you're going to be using the federal benefits to get your payment, it's really only going to be you. It's really, I believe it's really only going to be you that they're going to be sending the money to, unless they have your dependent information on file, unless they have your spouse information on file. I believe it's only going to be you. So that means you possibly could be short some money, right? And nobody wants that, because you've been through a lot. The economy is really taking a lot of it out of you, and that's why they're sending you this payments, right? So what are you going to be? So what are you going to do if that happens? We're going to be covering that later. And how to check your payment status, okay? So now here's the thing: because of what's been happening with COVID, and also there was a disorganization with the IRS during the Trump administration, I would really, really advise you to stay away from calling the IRS. Call them as a very last resort. Why? Because they had a lot of things that were backed up. Because of COVID, they had to really, they had to really, they had to really this, they had to really change up their operations and try to get a lot of their people to work from home instead of the office, and that required a lot of manpower, a lot of time, and so they were ridiculously backed up. And also, there was a lot of disorganization with the Trump administration. So that's why I'm saying, just wait. Don't try to contact them. Just contact them as a very last minute, because they are incredibly backed up. They're having to postpone tax returns and then have to process tax returns in later months when they really should be focusing on other stuff. So there's been just a lot of things backed up on them. So the thing is, yeah, you might contact them, and it might take you time and time again to get in contact with them. I know I had a huge problem with being able to get in touch with the IRS. So just wait until last minute. That is the last resort to contact them. But the other way to quickly check your status is to go to this link here where it says to get my payment link, and I'm going to leave that in the description so that you guys can just click on it and get straight to the IRS's website. So how to cure when things go wrong. So if you've already filed, okay, do not amend in order to claim any benefits. Amend only if your tax returns are incorrect or they're incomplete, okay? And if you didn't file your 2019 tax return, file your 2020 as soon as possible. And if you didn't use the non-filers portal from last year, again, file your 2020 as soon as possible. And if you have no 2020 income, file your 2020 return anyway as soon as possible. Now, if you receive benefits, then you don't really have to file the 2019 return, or excuse me, the 2020 return. However, depending on what information they have with your benefits, those I don't really know what information about your family they would need, right? Because this information they're going to need your how many people are in your family, address, bank account, etc., right? So, and also if you received, EIP payment from last, either EIP payment or the first one or the second one, and those are the first and second stimulus. Those are the first and second COVID stimulus, right? So they would use that information if they have it, but it could be incorrect. And if it's incorrect, i.e., your family is grown, then again you need to file your 2020 return as soon as possible. And if you have a new baby, okay, but it doesn't have the Social Security yet, because of course the Social Security Administration, they're going to take time, right? You need to include the baby on the tax return, but select that you apply for a new Social Security. Now, what I don't know, Social Security Administration that you're submitting that information to, right? So they're gonna be the ones to determine the eligibility of that baby for a full on regular Social Security, right? So that could delay your your stimulus payment, right? But it really should not delay it insofar as every person on the return, right? So
So that means that I believe that they will pay for everyone who has a Social Security except for the baby who does not, right? So once you get the Social Security for the baby, that is something that you will have to fix later down the pipeline when they process all the payments, and they actually also have more time. And that is one of the things that you will have to contact the IRS for in order to inform them about the baby. Now, the other thing that you should not do though is, and you should not immediately file an amendment for the baby, because of the baby, right? To include the baby's tax return, right? Because the information really has not changed, right? So you should contact the IRS about later down the line once you get your Social Security and ask the IRS what to do. They might, at the time that you get them, that you have the Social Security for the child, they might have information on that, but they might not, because again, this is a really big bill. It's going to take time for them to read through it, understand how to operate it, design the operation that's going to go with administering the bill, and then write up, write all the information for the public, and also be able to put in the guardrails that will prevent a lot of the frauds and a lot of wicked people, like let's say banks who want to withhold your money for whatever reason, or debt collectors, etc. Right. So I was previously talking about the first and second stimulus, right? And a lot of people may not have received their first or even second stimulus, right? Because well, things go wrong. It's a lot of people that need to get the stuff, that the IRS needs to get the stuff to, uh, in a very very short period of time with very very little preparation. So of course things are going to go wrong, right? And one of those things is that people are not going to get them. So what do you do if you didn't get them? Well, you need to, if you typically file a tax return, right, then you should file your 2020 tax return and claim the recovery rebate credit on your return, and that will help you get that money. So that will either go to reducing your taxes, or it will go to you getting a higher refund, if that makes any sense, right? And if you usually don't file a tax return, then you need to file a tax return using the IRS free e-file to claim the recovery rebate. Okay, and you're using the IRS free e-file typically because you are, you know, you're not filing a tax return because your income is not high enough, right? And so, and that in that case, you will need to file a tax return to get that money, right? But because your income is low, right, you can you can use the free e-file, which will cost you absolutely nothing to file it. So basically, you will go online, file the tax return. Just give them basically your information and your income. So unemployment. Um, so everyone knows, there's been, unemployment, they've been, talking about unemployment 600, 400, etc. But they finally settled on 300 per week. And now this law, okay, and then it ends in September. So that is a good chunk of time for you to be collecting that. And you have to remember that the unemployment could be taxable. So I know people are under stress. I know they need a lot of money, but you have to tell the state to withdraw some tax from the unemployment, because we got lucky with them changing the law. We don't know if it's going to happen next time, because unemployment is typically taxable, unless you have unemployment or income. Sorry, unless you have income that is in total aggregate less than the standard deduction, then you're going to end up paying unemployment taxes. Does that make sense? So you have to make sure that they are taking tax money out of the unemployment, right? So they changed the law for this one, and they changed it that you can exclude $10,200, right? That means that you do not have to pay automatically. However, you do not have to pay taxes on that $10,200. That means that your total unemployment, subtract the 10,200, right? And that is the amount, and the remainder of the unemployment is the amount that you would pay taxes on. And this applies to the unemployment that for 2020, right? But they just passed a new bill that is going to that you're going to start collecting unemployment on, right? Through 2021, and how they're going to how they're going to treat that unemployment, it's not clear at this point. So that's why you have to, let them start taking out the taxes, because in 2020, when they passed the first bill that gave people unemployment, they didn't say anything about whether it was going to be taxable or not, and so people did not think about letting them take out the taxes, which means when they go to apply for that, when they go to file their tax return, now they're realizing, whoa, that is actual income and it's going to be taxable. But I've been so broke that of course I'm going to spend all of that money. And then and when you spend all that money, that means, and they didn't take out the taxes, that means you're going to end up owing taxes for money that you don't have, right? So I know it's going to be, I know it's going to be near impossible, right? But you have to let them take out the taxes, because you're potentially going to be, getting yourself into an even bigger trouble. Although I do think it is going to be very, very likely that they are going to be again doing the exclusion for the unemployment for 2021. So all the unemployment that you collect in 2021, it's likely that they are going to be able to allow you to exclude it from your income so that it is not taxable. And the thing, in my opinion, 100% of the 2020 and also 2020 unemployment received under COVID, any COVID stimulus in unemployment should be non-taxable. You should be able to exclude it from taxable income, right? 100% of that. However, that's not what they're doing. They're not even applying a certain percentage. They're doing a flat amount of 10,200. So if you collected 20,400 in unemployment, right? Half of that is still taxable, and that could still be a lot on some people, right? So it's just a lot of things that, yeah, it's not really a perfect, right? And you have to know how to navigate some of this stuff. So now, in order for you to get this exclusion, right? Because so in order for you to get the exclusion on your tax return, because the exclusion comes through your tax return. If you've already filed your tax return, do not amend it. Do not amend it. We don't want to amend because we are going to be doubling the work the IRS has to do, and that does not help you. It doesn't help the next person who needs their stimulus money quickly, and it doesn't help the IRS. Okay, do not file an amendment. Okay, IRS is going to take care of it because they passed the bill March 11th, but then they have to read through it to figure out how to actually administer it properly, right? And that is what takes time. And of course, it's taxes, and people are already filing their tax return, right? So a lot of things are going to need to be corrected later on. What IRS is asking that people do not file any amendment in order to claim all the provisions of the stimulus. Okay, they are going to fix it for you. When they see that you qualify for something, they will automatically do it, right? So do not amend in order to qualify. If you've already filed, if you got a refund, and that means and you should have gotten a bigger refund, that means you will get your refund later when IRS has done adjusted. But this is going to be later because right now they're just trying to get everyone that is easy to figure out what they're going to get and just get that money out. And everyone that they have to go through some calculations and all that stuff and figure out more complicated stuff, those guys are going to come later. So do not amend. And if you filed a tax return and you have a tax due, right? But you would have, and you've already paid it, and you will have had maybe a refund or maybe no tax due, right? Again, do not amend it. IRS will again fix it, and then they will refund you any taxes that you overpaid from that. And again, the reason is it's going to take time to read through the bills, to administer, all the proper, to administer it properly, right? And the administration of that, on this, includes how to, put in all the operation steps to make the payments possible. All the calculation that's gonna go in there to for things to be accurate, right? All the people who are gonna need to get the money, all the agencies, who are going to be the monies are going to be farmed up to, so that they can administer their own programs, right? And then all the guardrails to prevent the fraud to prevent fraud in using the money. And the reason that matters is because people like debt collectors are when the funds started going out for for this bill, right? We started hearing about debt collectors who are stealing people's stimulus, but that's not what the money is for. The money is not to pay debt. The money is for people to help them pay their bills, their actual real bills, that is going to depend on them being able to stay in their homes, being able to feed their families, being able to go to the hospital, being able to go to their work, because of what happened with COVID, and being able to buy things to be able to survive through COVID, right? That's what this bill is. So those are the things that they need to put in place to be able to make sure that the money they're not being abused, because when the money has been abused, right, that means that it's not going to go and really stimulate the economy like it really should. And if that doesn't happen, then that means that the entire economy does not bounce back like we need to, right? So this needs to be done correctly, and getting it done correctly means that it's going to take time, because it is a big bill, and the problem of COVID and the economy was so big that we need a big bill to fix it, right? So in order for this to work for all of us, right, we need to do our part and be patient with the IRS so that they can properly administer it, so that it can work, so that we can do this thing one time and be done with it. Does that make sense? So hopefully by sometime September, this is the economy is fixed. We're all back to normal. Not just getting back to normal, but actually back to normal. So please do your part. Just be patient. Let them work through it. Let them give them the time to do all the things that they need to do to get it done, because they really are working hard to make sure that it is done properly and everyone is taken care of. That is it for today. If you have more, if you find this information valuable, I would like to remind you to please like, comment, subscribe, and best of all, share it with someone who can really use it, because this information, it's a lot of things that can screw people up, that people do not understand about it. Yeah, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you soon in a new video.